Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily, the first English news program in Poland. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. Following the controversy of the alleged accusation from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Poland's complicity in the Holocaust, Polish Prime Minister Mariusz Morawiecki made a comment today on the media's attempt at distorting Netanyahu's statement and made a personal request to the ambassador of Israel in Poland to disown the accusation.
Benjamin Netanyahu's statement published in Jerusalem Post, which created a diplomatic crisis between Poland and Israel, still echoes in the minds of the public. Although a retraction and an apology were issued later, the situation left a sour taste. It is difficult to recall an event of similar international gravity. However you want to look at this issue, Poland has become the most important US ally in Europe.
Najważniejszym sojusznikiem Stanów Zjednoczonych w Europie.
The words said by the Israeli Prime Minister put the V4 Group summit set to take place in Jerusalem in question. In fact, Polish President Andrzej Duda even proposed to move the meeting to his residence in Wisła, Poland. The President acted strongly, but this strength is necessary in terms of diplomacy. Mr. President is very consistent. There is no place for such false statements. The Middle Eastern summit in Warsaw was a complete failure of Polish diplomacy. Because of our weak position in negotiations with the US, we are not being respected. The Visegrad Group summit in Jerusalem is supposed to be the next step in the strategic dialogue between Israel and the V4 Group countries. This afternoon, Chief of the Chancellery of the Prime Minister, Michał Dworczyk, informed that Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki will not attend the Jerusalem summit. The reason for this decision was said to be the fact that the Polish Prime Minister is very sensitive to false accusations targeted at the Polish nation. Instead, Poland will be represented by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jacek Czaputowicz.
Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki made his statement regarding the issue of reparations for American Jewish citizens in an interview today with the Polish press agency. His statement declared that Poland is in the clear regarding international regulations and Poland is not subject to carry out said reparations.
The Germans destroyed our country. They wanted to murder almost all of the Polish nation and enslave the rest. It is us who have the right to ask for compensation. The matter of returning property to American citizens of Jewish origin is completely regulated. For years we have signed an indemnification agreement with the Americans which releases our country from this responsibility. I want to make it clear, there is currently no case. Poland is completely safe from this controversy. Poland was a victim, not an executioner, and above all, Germany has never compensated Poland for the losses caused by the criminal policy of the Third Reich.
European Union countries have reached an agreement on how to regulate Russia's Nord Stream 2 pipeline. The Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, defended the Nord Stream 2 by denying that the new gas pipeline will increase the dependence of Germany and all of Europe on Russian gas.
Munich Security Conference is the place where politicians, despite of the harsh international situation, meet to find a compromise. A Russian gas molecule is a Russian gas molecule, whether it came via Ukraine or the Baltic Sea. That means that the question of how dependent we are on Russian gas cannot be answered simply by which pipeline is being used. And nobody wants to be solely dependent on Russia. The Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, criticized the German and Russian underinvestments.
We cannot ensure the defense of the West if our allies grow dependent on the East.
Polish Minister of National Defense Mariusz Dampc indicated that the money from the Russian gas sale is being spent on armaments.
I noticed that the money which Russia is getting from the gas sale is being spent on armaments. This is a paradoxical situation in which Russia is arming with the European partners' money.
The United States Vice President Pence made a statement referring to the Warsaw Summit during the security conference in Munich.
The time has come for our European partners to stand with us and with the Iranian people, our allies and friends in the region. The time has come for our European partners to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal and join us as we bring the economic and diplomatic pressure necessary to give the Iranian people, the region, and the world the peace, security, and freedom they deserve.
35 prime ministers, 90 ministers, and a few hundred experts took part in this year's Munich Security Conference.
The speech given today by the Iranian Minister of National Defense, Mohammad Javad Zarif, highlighted the last day of the Munich Security Conference. The Iranian diplomat admitted that the risk of war with Israel is high. Meanwhile, he appealed to the European countries for economic cooperation with Tehran. This was the first comment made by a high-level Iranian politician on a summit on peace and security in the Middle East recently held in Warsaw.
We are in Syria on the invitation of the Syrian government for the sole purpose of fighting terrorism. No other reason for our being there. I think last I checked international law, violating Lebanon's airspace and shooting into Syria is a violation of international law. And the international community, and of all people, Europe, which believes international law is the foundations of international order, is blaming us and not blaming the Israelis for violating international law. So let's wake up.
So the risk is great.
Risk is great, but risk will be even greater if you continue to turn a blind eye to severe violations of international law.
That's it for today. See you next time on Poland Daily. But stay tuned for the Poland Daily Weather Report, followed by Poland Daily Business.
Good evening, welcome to Poland Daily Weather. I'm Paulina Otterstein. Tonight the temperatures will be quite high, especially in some places like around Krakow, 5 degrees. Also Warsaw will see 5, Wrocław, Zielona Góra and Szczecin, 4 degrees, and Bydgoszcz, Poznań also in the northern parts of the country, and the minimum temperature will be 2 degrees around Rzeszów, also around Olsztyn. And now let's check the forecast for tomorrow. So quite sunny, as we can see, and very nice and warm around Krakow, also in Katowice. Wrocław will see 12 degrees as well, 11 in Zielona Góra, 10 in Poznań, Bydgoszcz, also in Szczecin, and 9 degrees in Rzeszów, 7 in the eastern parts, and central Poland will see 8 degrees, 9 degrees in Łódź. And now let's check the situation for the upcoming days. So on Tuesday, we will see also up to 12 degrees in the south west part of the country. Quite a bit of rain will appear on Tuesday, and on Wednesday, 7 degrees in central Poland. The minimum in the country will be 4 degrees in the northeast, and on Thursday, up to 9 degrees in the southwest, 7 degrees in central Poland, and also the minimum will be 4 degrees. This is all for tonight. Thank you and good night.
Poland Daily Business Edition, and in our studio is Pamela Gmiter from Staffer. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Your business is about providing stuffs for other businesses. So where the workers hire stuff comes from?
The workers are mainly Polish, but they also come from Ukraine now, because unfortunately we have a lack of trained Polish workers for blue-collar work. So and it's great that the borders have opened and that we're able to hire Ukrainians, but they also come from India. They come now, I've seen people coming from Philippines, and I think it's great. It's going to help our market.
Right. Poland is a specific country. Most of people speak Polish here. And obviously, we demand that the workers who came here will communicate with everybody else. How big is the problem of Polish language?
I think it depends where these people are coming from. Ukrainians have it much easier, and you know, like last week, for example, I had a training for 5 Ukrainians where I wanted to do it in English to make it better for them, and they actually asked me, please speak Polish because we're going to be speaking Polish at work, so we want you to do the training in Polish, which I find is great. From other countries, it's a little bit harder. I think, you know, myself, I grew up in Germany and in Canada, and Polish is a really hard language to learn, and it's difficult for them, but they're trying. They are really trying.
Okay. Is Poland now attractive workplace for people from abroad?
I would say depends from where. I think, you know, in the Eurozone, it's still not so much attractive because obviously the euro is worth a little more than the zloty. But
and the wages are like quarter of what you can earn in Germany.
Correct. The wages are higher in Germany, you know, especially, you know, comparing the zloty to the euro. But for other countries like Ukraine, they're very attractive. So.
Okay, what about the higher staff, the management positions? Are they being filled by foreigners or rather by locals?
In my industry, as is the hospitality industry, hotels, we have mostly GMs that come from abroad. They come from France, Germany, you know, the Netherlands, and I'm not sure about their wages, but I'm guessing they have to match their homeland wages. But there's also Polish ones, Polish GMs. But I've noticed and seen that a lot of the Polish GMs, they go abroad as well. It's kind of like a hospitality thing that you move around a little bit to every country and you learn new strategies, new ideas, and then you come back to your own country.
And you also have, you provided training to the local staff. You demand some papers, you demand some documents for those who are coming here?
Well, you mean the ones from abroad?
References, like, yes.
The ones from abroad, well, we hire only the blue-collar workers as we outsource them to the hotels and the caterings. And we demand legal work permits, of course, and sanepid, which is necessary to work in a hotel. Other than that, no, we believe in giving everybody a chance, having them come to the office. We train them. If everything is legal and they're willing to work with a smile on their face, we will take them.
Okay. What about the cultural differences? There are differences in many nations. Poland is a specific one to the workers who came here from abroad. Do they need to learn something? Do you have some brochure that tells do this, don't do that?
No, unfortunately, but very good idea. Unfortunately, we don't have a brochure like this yet, what to tell them what to do or not to do. But I think it's easy in Poland, easier to kind of adapt to Poland because there's so much more Polish people here than from the other countries, right? Whereas in Germany or in Canada especially, my parents, they went to Canada. They were living there for 20 years. Everything they dealt with, including work, was in Polish language. So they never really adapted the English language, whereas in Germany they did. And here in Poland as well, the integration is easier because there is still, you know, the Polish culture is so strong.
It is true. The issues like emptying the space in a tram when you see an older lady, you have to jump up and say, please, this is free. Is that strange for people from West or East?
It's funny that you mentioned this because it was strange for me. I grew up, like I said, you know, I was born in Germany. I grew up in Germany, then in Canada. Then I came here to Poland 9 years ago to find my roots from my parents. And I was amazed. I mean, it came naturally to me because I just have respect for older people, probably because my parents taught me that. But I saw everybody's doing it, and even the young ones are getting up in the bus.
Especially the young ones.
Especially the young ones, yes.
I mean, as long as you're doing that, you are considered young. So I saw people in their 60s who are emptying the space just to feel young and full of energy.
I would say people of color in Poland are generally very respectful, as I've noticed. They keep quiet to themselves on the bus. They don't feel very, maybe I would say, comfortable to not be polite. Whereas I cannot say how it is with the Ukrainians because they look so much alike to us Polish people that I don't know if it was a Polish person that got up or it wasn't a Polish person.
Okay, very interesting. The cultural issues with the business, we mix it and for our benefit. Thank you very much. Pamela Gmitter of Staffer was our guest, and please join us next time.
Hello, I'm Paulina Otterstein and welcome again to Poland Daily Weather. Tomorrow in our country we'll have up to 12 degrees in Krakow, also in Katowice, as well as in Wrocław, 10 degrees in Bydgoszcz, Poznań, also in Szczecin, a bit cooler in the in the north, around Olsztyn, also in the eastern parts of the country. And Warsaw will see 8 degrees, Łódź 9. It will be nice and sunny, but there will be some clouds as well. And now let's see what will happen in Europe tomorrow. So we are expecting also quite a bit of sun. Rome will be nice and sunny, 15 degrees Celsius, 15 degrees also in Paris, but with some clouds, 14 in London, 11 degrees in Dublin, and Warsaw will see 11 degrees as well with sun and clouds. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon. Hello and welcome again to Poland Daily Culture. Today we'll take you on a very adventurous trip through the Vodka Museum in Warsaw, so stay with us.
The main exhibition of the museum is located in an historic building in the former rectification plant, which is where vodka used to gain its unique and pure flavor. Visitors will discover the local tradition of vodka production and will learn about Polish vodka's international career. Visitors can see a virtual laboratory of a medieval alchemist. They can experience the comforts of living in a manor house and see an actual distillery. They can learn about the role vodka has played in politics, as well as get to know bartenders' tricks of the trade.
So following the path, what do you have here? This is rye, as I can see.
Yeah, those are all the ingredients that were used traditionally to produce those first alcoholic vodkas back in the 16th, 17th, 18th century, but also those are the ingredients that we use today to produce Polish vodka according to this protected geographical indication. Mm-hmm. So we have rye, we have wheat, later we have oat and barley, and in the middle we have also potatoes.
Potatoes, yes. And also we can take them out and
touch them.
Best Polish potatoes.
Yeah, and potatoes are quite an interesting ingredient, really, because according to tradition of Polish vodka and also according to this protected geographical indication, we can mix different types of grain to produce those blended grain vodkas.
So we could mix, for example, wheat and rye?
Yeah, no problem. And still we can use the name Polish vodka if all other factors are okay with the definition. But potato vodkas have to be from potatoes only. We don't mix potatoes with grains. It's a whole other category of vodkas. And in fact, they are quite different in taste. They are sweeter, more smooth in taste. Many people prefer them.
I prefer potato
Me including,
vodkas,
yes.
yeah. So, and these machines, do they show how the seeds are kept for the vodka?
Maybe it's they are inspired by the machines that are used in a mill, for example, but they're not an exact copy. You can see you can touch the grain, smell the grain, feel also the quality of those Polish ingredients, which are the best ingredients. So we have the best vodka thanks to them.
And what is this?
This is barley. Barley is not very popular in Polish vodka production. Is mainly used as one of the grains in those mixed vodkas. Most popular ingredient, most popular grain used in vodka production is definitely rye. Because also rye is the most popular grain in Poland in general.
Yes.
At the end of the tour of the museum, visitors can buy souvenirs, including the best Polish vodkas. All those who enjoy vodka tasting can do so in a stylish restaurant. The visitors, newly equipped with knowledge and skills related to vodka, will surely appreciate the qualities of genuine Polish vodka.
So, and what do you have here? This looks interesting.
Yeah, this is, here we are in fact a little later in time because we start in the 15th, 16th century and here we are in 17th, 18th century, so the time of Polish nobility, and here on this interactive table we have different informations about different aspects of life when and where this vodka as an alcoholic drink was present. as a part of a diet, as a part of a culture also back then. So we have Polish nobleman manor over here, definitely a very important part of a landscape back then. Also for Polish vodka, because on one hand, Polish nobility had the right to produce vodka, to sell vodka, alcohol in general, so near many manors back then there were some kind of private distilleries. Vodka was produced there. But also, on the other hand, well, Polish nobility themselves back then, they loved to have feasts and guests and also drinking quite a lot, so those manors were kind of culture centers, social centers, and many customs, traditions, toasts that we use also today were born during this Polish nobleman feasts in the 17th, 18th century. Whole culture of drinking was born back then.
And this vodka in wartime that it says here, this is interesting.
Yeah, this is only one of the aspects of vodka presence in culture, in everyday life. In wartime, in the military, well, alcohol in general, vodka had many different usage because it's a way to celebrate after a victory. It's a way to encourage soldiers before the fight. Also, sometimes it was used as a part of a payment for military men. So many different aspects of this part of vodka history.
And following the path further, those little windows.
Yeah, again, a nobleman manor and some original texts from 17th, 18th century about this drinking culture in Poland, the culture full of feasts, full of Polish hospitality, and of, well, quite a simple life for some people.
And this is the end of our tour, as I see.
One more thing in this gallery, information about Polish vodka export in the 18th century mostly. As you may know, in the 18th century, Poland was one of the biggest grain producers in Europe, and thanks to that, we have the ability to become a big vodka producer and vodka exporter. And in fact, in the 18th century, Polish vodka was one of the most important export products of Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. So here we have a map of Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth in the 18th century and the directions of export of Polish vodka back then, which was exported basically all over Europe in all directions and already quite well known, quite famous, quite recognizable as a high quality beverage.
So also to Russia.
Yeah, maybe Russians are not very happy about that, but this is a part of history. We cannot change that. It's a fact that Polish vodka was also exported to Russia.
But at some point they were doing their own vodka as well. Right?
Definitely they were doing their own vodka, but still they imported Polish vodka.
Thank you for watching and join us tomorrow on our new episode. Goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are standing in front of the Potocki family palace to learn more about the Polish aristocracy. They are the most independent and most prosperous branch of the noble class in all of Europe. However, after 1945, following the beginning of the Soviet communist regime, they were heavily persecuted. Today we will dig more into the details and intricacies of the Polish aristocracy. The Potocki family palace now houses the Polish Ministry of Culture, but Count Marek Potocki was kind enough to invite us to his private apartment where we uncover more about the history of his family and learn how the position of Polish aristocracy shifted over the centuries. Poland eventually regained its freedom after 123 years. What did the regaining independence affect your family?
affect us a lot because we lost the biggest piece of land because of the Russian Revolution.
Right.
And the peace treaty signed in Brześć in 1918 or 1919, and our property called Antoniny, enormously developed by my grandfather, Józef Potocki, remained in the Soviet-occupied area.
Right.
In '39, because of the war having been won in this part of Europe by the Soviet army, we lost everything. You know, in 1945, we were lucky to remain alive because quite a number of our cousins were shot or sent to prison or sent to gulags, etc. But between the two wars, we didn't do too poorly because my grandfather was offered the job of the newly created Poland ambassador to France, to Paris. He refused and he said, "You give me London or I give up." And Piłsudski, the boss of Poland at that time, he said, "Potocki wants too much. He either takes Paris, not London." My father refused. So this is, but my father's older brother became the ambassador to Turkey. First time after 123 years of having no diplomatic relations with a high port, with Turkey. And then later on, he became the Poland's ambassador to Washington in America. So he was quite an important Polish diplomat. And my father, who fought in the First World War as a Russian officer, then in the Polish Bolshevik War, 1920, was decorated by Piłsudski. He remembered with pride his participation in the Polish Bolshevik War. His memoirs were published a few days ago. And he very, very widely and very colorfully describes his participation in the Polish Bolshevik War, which was a very, very deadly war, very important war.
In the interwar era, the position of the Polish nobility changed. The Polish leader Mariusz Piłsudski received his political education within socialist circles and had to balance the demands of the working class with those of the landed aristocracy. Piłsudski did, however, recognize the contribution of the patriotic aristocracy in the Polish-Soviet War, including the sacrifice made by a relative of the Potocki family, Stanisław Radziwiłł. So how did the position of the nobility shifted between the First and the Second Republic?
In theory, it didn't.
Right.
But in practice, it did, because very many of the Polish, very wealthy families lost a lot of the properties because they remained in the East. Also, the bosses of the newly created Poland, with the Marshal Piłsudski on its head, we cannot forget that they were socialist. Therefore, totally different kind of people came to power than the ancient nobility. You know, very well-educated, smart people started to occupy important positions, and the name stopped counting.
Right.
Before, the name and the position of the family counted a lot. Starting after the First World War, it was quite visible, and maybe I can mention that very recently in Poland were published the memories of the first American ambassador, Gibson, who was American ambassador to Poland between 1918 and 1924. And it was published simultaneously in English in America and in Polish in Poland. And he very well describes how these few leading families lost in the position, not only money but power, influence, etc.
During the Second Republic, how is Marshal Piłsudski's position towards nobility?
I have to tell you a very close family story. Marshal Piłsudski, as I said, was a socialist, but he was born in Lithuania, and he considered himself as Polish-Lithuanian or Lithuanian-Polish. His Lithuanian roots were very strong in him. So when my grandmother's younger brother, Stanisław Radziwiłł, another very important Polish family, decided that he wants to join the 1920 Poland-Russia military conflict, Piłsudski was delighted to accept him because he was a Radziwiłł. But the story says that very rapidly his young Radziwiłł became bored at the Piłsudski headquarters, and he said, I want to fight. And he went to the front and was killed, and he died a heroic death, killed by the Soviets with the bayonets, you know. And I'm telling you the story because there was a very, he died 20 or 30 years ago, 40 years ago. There was a very famous Soviet writer called Ostrowski, and he wrote a book called How the Steel Was Hardened. Jak zakaliałeś stal. I had to read it as a young man in the communist Poland, 1945, 1950, the book. And in that book, the poor Ostrowski, who was blind, confused my father, Roman Potocki, with his very close relative, Stanisław Radziwiłł, and described in detail the death of my father. And he didn't commit, he didn't lie. Being a blind man, the Soviet soldiers said, my ubili polskiego pana. We killed the Polish lord. And they mixed up Radziwiłł and Potocki because they were, you know, closer related families. But my father died in his own bed, and this poor Radziwiłł died this heroic death. But Marshal Piłsudski liked very much to have somebody with the name of Radziwiłł to work for him as a personal assistant, as an aide de camp, you know. So this is the story.
The Polish nobles used to form the backbones of Polish society. The Potocki family was one of the most prominent and especially influential within the military. Count Potocki has given us today a very interesting snapshot of Polish history. That's it for today. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Hi folks, we're back with Poland Daily Travel, and thanks to the Sofitel Hotel here in Warsaw, Sofitel Victoria, right?
Correct.
Hotel. We have a great panorama behind us of Piłsudski Square, named of course for Marshal Piłsudski, and we're going to talk a little bit about its significance and some of the different monuments and memorials that are situated there. What is really the importance of Piłsudski Square, Arthur?
So, you already used during your introduction two names of the square. That's Piłsudski Square, and once upon a time that was Victory Square too. But
I did not know that.
But let's start from your question. So, what's the importance of Piłsudski Square? So we get back the independence in 1918, and then we start to be really proud of our history officially because we can, finally, after so many years. So all over the planet Earth, after the big war, the monuments of unknown soldiers are appearing, the tombs of unknown soldiers. So for all the soldiers who died during the big conflict and their fate was unknown. So we are having London, Berlin, and then Warsaw. 1925, a grave is established in a huge Saxon palace that was right behind us once upon a time.
It was just over there. Right?
It was right in here.
Where the monument to the unknown soldier is.
All over the place where we can see snow, which lays on the grass at the moment, where the grass is right now, and the snow. This is where the Saxon garden was.
All that area.
17th century, huge palace, destroyed during World War II, and in arcades of that palace, we are having the tomb of unknown soldier established in 1925, and then the name of the square, Marshal Józef Piłsudski Square. And then World War II comes, and it becomes Adolf Hitler Square.
What?
Adolf Hitler Square during World War II, it was.
I don't think I'd name anything after that jerk.
So, well, during World War II, of course, it wasn't our own decision, obviously, because it was absolutely humiliating for Poland to have a square like this, but it wasn't Poland at that time, that was Germany.
Because Germany attacked Poland
1st of
in
September,
1939.
1st of September 1939.
Poland did not attack Germany.
Well, absolutely not. Actually,
some people think that.
Adolf Hitler
nowadays
wanted to convince Marshal Józef Piłsudski to attack Russia together. That was the main aim of Adolf Hitler, to kill communist Russia, the reason of German humiliation during and after World War I. So Adolf Hitler comes to Józef Piłsudski and says, let's attack Russia together. Let's kill them together. Marshal Józef Piłsudski replies, we are not starting another war. We just stopped Bolshevik revolution, and then we don't want to take our revenge. We just want to keep the borders safe right now. So Adolf Hitler flies to Joseph Stalin and says, let's attack Poland together.
When did Hitler try to make this pact with Piłsudski?
Before 1935.
Okay. And Piłsudski died in 37 or something?
35. This is when Marshal Józef Piłsudski, and right before Adolf Hitler, after he got his power in Germany, so after 1932, when German President Paul von Hindenburg died, Adolf Hitler informed his society that they are having no president or chancellor since that moment on. He told them that since that moment on they are having their Führer. And their Führer wanted to make a deal with Piłsudski. Piłsudski said no. Okay, so Adolf
The Führer, you're saying?
Exactly.
That guy?
Exactly.
The Hitler guy?
Exactly.
We don't like him.
Well, that's the history of this place. Very difficult.
And Piłsudski said no to that deal. I didn't know about this.
Piłsudski said, to quote him at the moment precisely, he said, we leave our weapons in a warehouse. We are not starting another war. And on 23rd of August 1939, there is Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact signed, or Hitler-Stalin Pact, that divides Poland into halves. Look, previously we were annexed by three neighborhood countries, and now same thing happens.
Yeah, between Russia and Germany.
Correct.
Yeah, right.
And then Nazi Germany attacks...
Molotov, Ribbentrop.
Exactly. So we are having Poland divided into two sections at the moment. We are attacked on 1st of September 1939 by Nazi Germany and 17th of September 1939 by Soviet Russia. We are having a lot of battles in Poland against Germany and Russia, but we are having two most powerful armies attacking one country in the same moment. Poland was defending for more than a month these two invasions. Warsaw capitulated in early days of October, not September 1939.
So the point is, we look at the square, and it's gone through different names, and it symbolizes the different enemies, and also the symbol of liberty of the country.
And we reached maybe the middle of the story, because then Poland becomes a satellite country of Soviet Russia. According to conferences Yalta, Potsdam, Tehran, Poland becomes not a part of Soviet Union, but a satellite country of Soviet Union, dependent, but we are not inside the Soviet Union as the country, and the name, everything becomes dependent on Joseph Stalin at the beginning. So that's no more Adolf Hitler Square, as it was called by the Germans during World War II, but the Victory Square.
Under communism, so Adolf Hitler, it's a big square, everybody wants it, that's the point. So it's a microcosm of Polish history.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's nice flat square.
Exactly.
Right in the center. Like Poland's a nice flat country right in the center of Europe. So you see the evolution of the or devolution, I would say, is a better word.
But I would call it cyclation.
Yeah.
Because after communism ends in 1989, we are having once again Marshal Joseph Piłsudski Square in here.
Right.
So
it comes back. Yeah.
It came back, exactly. And we are having a lot of interesting elements over there. So the tomb of unknown soldier survived.
Tell me about the tomb of the unknown soldier and what it represents and how it got to be there. It's just sitting out there by itself. How did that happen?
Such problem there was after the biggest war in world's history, the big war, nowadays we call it World War I, that many people died and their family, the Great War. Many people died and their fate was unknown. So their families wanted to pray next to some kind of grave or significant place that would represent members of their family who died during the Great War. So the idea was to take ashes of some unknown person who really died during that conflict, locate them in one place, and this is very representative place and important for many people. So we decided to also choose a significant place to put these ashes and construct a regular grave area over there, which since that moment on is called the Tomb of Unknown Soldier. We are having such tombs almost all over planet Earth. Ours in 1925 and the third one on entire planet Earth became very significant for us because during the Great War, during World War I, Polish people did not fight as a Polish men because there was no
Polish army.
Exactly. So Polish people were fighting for Russia, Prussia, and Austria against each other very frequently.
Who were the most? So Poles were fighting against each other under these partitioned, the Allies being Germany and Austria, and then Russia being an enemy from the beginning of that war. But okay, continue. Yeah.
And then Poland gets united. Poland is on the maps again. Bolshevik revolution is willing to conquer weak Europe after World War I, and they undermine Poland. How can it be that these people who were fighting for 3 different armies just a year ago would stop us at the moment? So Bolsheviks wanted to cross Poland quickly and smoothly, but they were stopped by whom? Marshal Joseph Piłsudski again, who starts to be like the real hero. Not only of our independence, but also keeping our independence in 1920. So the war is over, finally. And then we name the square of Marshal Joseph Piłsudski, and we put the Tomb of Unknown Soldier in a beautiful palace.
It was in a palace?
That was in the arcades of it. So normally people...
So there used to be, it was actually in the palace that used to be there.
Exactly. That's actually in the palace. You could walk through these arcades, which was so-called Warsawian Polish Champs-Élysées of these days. 3 kilometers, 2 miles of a pedestrian area among beautiful palaces, beautiful Saxon garden, Baroque style French gardening, a great fountain inside the place. Right next to Bristol or Europejski Hotel, constructed before World War I. All the people wanted to hang out in here. If you took a look at these photos of this period of time, you can see people in an amazing way. If you saw this man with his lady walking down the street dressed up, Warsawian cloth makers are competitive with Coco Chanel clothes that appear in Europe right after World War I. And Polish gentlemen dressing up in the same way as English gentlemen from London, or Warsawian ladies dressing up in the way that ladies from France, from Paris dress up. So once again, we are having a combination and eclectic style of clothing, a little bit of French, a little bit of English, and that's the way how it was in here. The tomb of unknown soldier is like the only real witness of these days in here nowadays.
Thanks for that. Hey, stay with us. We'll be talking more about things available in, well, things that are memorable and available too in Piłsudski Square, right here in the center of Warsaw, from the beautiful Sophie, what is it called? Sofitel? Victoria Sofitel?
Correct.
Did I say that right? Okay. We'll be right back.